Hi everyone! Today I'm going to explain to you what third declension nouns are and how to form them. So as you listen and watch this video, you should be taking notes on the piece of paper I gave you during class. Now let's get started. We're going to start out by reviewing what a declension is, what the cases are, and what the forms are of the first and second declensions. Then once we've done that review, we're going to go on and look at the forms of third declension nouns. So let's start by talking about noun cases. And this probably sounds a little bit familiar to you because it is review. A case is a form of a noun that tells us what role the noun is playing in the sentence. As we've talked about in English, it's the word order that tell us what roles various nouns are playing in a sentence. But in Latin, it's the case. It's the ending that is put on a noun. So we know 4 cases so far out of the total of 6 cases that Latin has. We know the nominative case, which indicates the subject of a sentence. And remember that the subject is the noun that is performing the action of the verb. The accusative case indicates that a noun is the direct object of a sentence. And again, the direct object is the noun that is receiving the action of the verb, just as the subject is the noun that is doing or performing the action of the verb. So the nominative, or the subject, is doing the verb. The accusative, or the direct object, is having the verb done to it. Next, we have the ablative case, which is used with prepositions. And then our newest case, the vocative case, is used to address somebody directly. Now, and this is again review, but let's talk a little bit about noun declensions in Latin. So declension is a group of nouns whose case endings all follow the same pattern. And when we talk about declining a noun, that means writing out all cases of a noun, singular and plural, all of the endings for every case. So let's look at first declension nouns. First declension nouns are usually feminine in gender, not always, but usually. And the nominative singular of first declension nouns ends in the letter A. So here are the endings of first declension nouns. And again, this is review, but you should be writing this down on the handout I gave you in class. So, nominative singular ending of a first declension noun is an A, a short A, accusative AM, ablative long A, and then vocative is same as the nominative, it's a short A. Nominative plural ending is I, AE, accusative plural AS, ablative plural IS, and then vocative again same as the nominative, so AE, pronounced I. So if we take the noun ira, which means anger, this is what the forms are going to look like when we decline it. Nominative ira, accusative iram, ablative ira with a long A. That macron is very important. For the ablative singular first declension nouns, you have to remember that that's a long A, not a short A. Vocative, same as the nominative, ira. And then the plural, irai in the nominative, iras in the accusative, iris in the ablative, and then irai in the vocative. So that's first declension. Now let's review second declension. So second declension nouns are either masculine or neuter, but we haven't seen neuter nouns yet. We're going to learn about those in chapter 10. And masculine second declension nouns end in either us or er in the nominative singular. And then here are the endings. Nominative, depending on the noun, ends in either us or er. And again, this is review, but you should be writing it down on your handout anyway. Accusative singular ends in ablative singular ends in o, and vocative singular ends in either a short e. If the nominative ended in us, then the vocative ends in a short e. Or if the nominative ended in er, then the vocative is the same as the nominative. It ends in er as well. Then the plural nominative ends with an I, os, is, and then I in the vocative. So let's look at a couple different second declension nouns. Again, this is review, but you should be writing it down on your handout. So first, amicus, which means friend. Nominative singular amicus, accusative singular amicum, ablative singular amico, vocative singular amica. Because the nominative singular ended in us, that means the vocative is going to be different from the nominative. The vocative is going to end in that short e. Then the plural nominative amici, accusative amicos, ablative amicis, vocative amici. All right, now let's look at one of the er second declension nouns, magister, or teacher. So nominative singular is magister, accusative magistrum, ablative magistro, And then vocative here is same as the nominative, because the only time the vocative is different from the nominative is when the nominative ends in a US. So here the vocative is going to be magister again. Then the plural nominative magistri, accusative magistros, ablative magistris, vocative magistri. All right, so that's first and second declension nouns. That's the review portion of this. Now on to the new stuff, on to third declension nouns. So third declension nouns are a little more complicated than first and second declension nouns for a couple reasons. First of all, a third declension noun can be any gender. And second of all, there's tons of different possible nominative endings. There's not one nominative ending that third declension nouns always have, like first declension nouns. And there's not a small set of nominative endings like second declension nouns. There's a whole wide range of nominative endings that third declension nouns can have. So here's some examples of third declension nouns in the nominative: frater, urbs, rex, navis, corpus, uxor. So you can see those end with all sorts of letters. Some of those have endings that look just like the endings for second declension nouns. For example, frater and corpus could both be second declension nouns, except they're actually third declension nouns. So we'll talk a little later about how to know whether a noun is third declension versus a different declension. But for now, just know that they can be any gender and they can have any ending in the nominative. The nominative can really look like anything at all. So we'll learn about neuter third declension nouns in Chapter 10 when we learn about the neuter more generally. For now, it's just masculine and feminine we're looking at. And luckily, masculine and feminine third declension nouns have the same sets of endings. So there's only one set of endings we have to learn, even though some of these nouns are masculine and some are feminine. So since third declension nouns have all of these different nominative endings, we have to figure out what the stem is going to look like, what the beginning of the noun is going to look like in all of the cases but the nominative, because the nominative form of the third declension noun doesn't necessarily tell you what its other forms will look like. So we have to figure out what the stem is, the beginning of the noun, which the endings are added on to. The stem is going to be the same in all cases except the nominative, but the stem also might look different than the nominative form. So that means that when we're learning third declension nouns, we can't just have our dictionary or our vocab list the nominative, because that doesn't tell you anything about what the other forms look like. It has to list another case as well to show us what the stem is, what the other forms look like. In your Quizlet set for this chapter, I've been listing the nominative and the accusative to show you what the stem looks like. So for example, I've written something like pater, accusative, patrem, means father. So the accusative form shows you that that E goes away in all of the forms except for the nominative. That's not pater, it's patrem. And that shows you what the stem is, what the beginning of all of the forms except for the nominative singular is going to look like. Your book does something a little different, and what your book does is actually what most Latin textbooks and dictionaries do, and what we're going to start doing later on in the year, but at this point we haven't learned the genitive case yet, so it gets a little tricky. So the textbook has begun to list nouns with the nominative case, as it always has done, but then it's followed by the genitive case, and the genitive is a new case, which we'll learn in Chapter 9, and then after the genitive case it has the gender. So it looks like pater, patris, and then masculine, means father. Either one of these ways of listing nouns gives you the same information. Gives you the information of what the stem looks like, what the beginning of the word is that you add the endings onto in all forms except for the nominative singular. So for pater, we can look at the accusative form patrem or the genitive form patris. Either way, we know that the em and the is are our accusative ending and our genitive ending. So if we take those endings off, we get our stem, which is pater, P-A-T-R. And that is what we add all of the endings onto. So before we get into adding the endings on, let's look at what the endings are. So the nominative singular ending for third declension nouns is nothing, basically. Third declension nouns all have different nominative singular endings. Remember that list I showed you of all of the different third declension nouns, all of the different ways the nominative singular can look. And same goes for the vocative, because remember that these are not second declension nouns that end in US, and because they are not second declension nouns that end in US, that means that the vocative is going to look identical to the nominative. So nominative singular, there's just a blank. There's no one ending you can say the nominative singular has. That doesn't mean there's no form for the nominative singular. All third declension nouns have nominative singular forms. We just can't predict from a chart of endings what the ending of that form will look like. But then all accusatives of third declension nouns end in em. Ablatives end in a short e. Vocatives always look the same as the nominative. And then the plural, nominatives end in long es. Accusatives also end in long es. Ablatives look a little different than ablative plurals we've seen so far. They end in ibus, I-B-U-S. And then vocatives, again, just like nominatives and accusatives in the plural, end with long es. So let's take these endings and add them onto this noun pater, father. So in the nominative, it's pater, right? The nominative doesn't follow the same stem we found for all the other forms. So pater is the nominative, patrem is the accusative, and then we're going to take that stem, so that accusative form minus the em, and add all of the other endings onto that. Not onto the nominative form, but onto the stem. So then we're going to get patre for the ablative. Vocative is same as the nominative, so that's going to go back to pater. And then the plural, patres, patres, patribus, patres. Again, this is pater, which means father, and the stem is patr, which we use in every form except for the nominative singular and the vocative singular, which looks the same as the nominative singular. All right, let's finish up by practicing one more third declension noun, and that is the noun rex, which means king. So the stem of this noun is reg, R-E-G. So once again, you can't predict what the stem will be from looking at the nominative singular. The stem and the nominative singular look alike. They clearly have something to do with each other, but you can't really tell what the stem will be just from the nominative singular. So we know, because it's listed in our vocab entry, that the stem is going to be reg. So let's look at the forms. So nominative singular is going to be rex. Accusative singular is going to be regem, and that is where we get our stem, R-E-G, which is used in all of the other forms except for the nominative and vocative singular. Ablative singular rega, vocative singular rex, nominative plural reges, accusative plural reges again, ablative plural regibus, and finally vocative plural reges. All right, so that's third declension nouns. Now what I want you to do is look to the last page of your notes handout that I gave you in class, and there are charts for you to decline two more third declension nouns, comes and erps. So I want you to get some practice with third declension nouns by writing out all of the forms of those two nouns as well. Also, make sure your notes are complete. The whole packet of notes is complete. And if there's something you didn't catch or weren't sure about, make sure to back up in the video and watch that portion again. Or if you're still completely confused, send me an email and ask me. Thanks, guys. I'll see you soon.